Joining us right now to talk about the elections and the political unrest in Hong Kong is Robert Hormats. He's the former Undersecretary of State for Economic Growth. And Bob, thanks for being here. It's good to see you.
Great to be here, Becky.
What does this mean?
Well, it means that it's pretty clear that Hong Kong, the people of Hong Kong and the way they voted, have a very strong view of what they want, which is a higher level of participation in the governmental process.
How does Beijing respond?
Well, that's really the interesting question. And so far, I was in China last week for a whole week. They have tended to be, I think, very restrained in the way they have dealt with this. And I think what they're doing is letting Carrie Lam and the government of Hong Kong deal with the problem. There's really no appetite among leaders in Beijing, at least people I've talked to intervene. They're really letting her carry the ball.
Okay, that may be the case, but
for the moment,
what happens
certainly
next? If they decide that they want more democracy, they want less of a hand-holding from Beijing, they want less oversight, is Beijing going to say okay, or is it worried about what happens next in Taiwan and beyond?
Well, I think they're looking at a lot of things. They're looking at what the implications are, as you say, for Taiwan. They're looking at the implications for the overall economic environment in the region. They're certainly looking at the importance of Hong Kong's markets for China and for the rest of the region, particularly for China. It's a big link, as you know. And I suspect what they're trying to do is anticipate that there'll be more pressure, but that the pressure will be able to be contained. That is the judgment that I come to. And I don't know what their next step will be, but the general view is let this work itself out in a Hong Kong context.
It hasn't done that to this point. It was calm this past weekend, but that may have been because of the elections. You think it calms down from here, or do we go back to when you're watching protesters?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you the general mood is that A, they don't want to intervene, and B, they think over a period of time, not in a perfect way, but over a period of time, the Hong Kong authorities will be able to work with this and deal with it without intervention from mainland China.
It's been half a year.
I know, and they know it's been half a year, but the Chinese are very patient and they're very pragmatic. And I think that if you look at the alternative between letting itself work itself out internally in Hong Kong and intervening, they certainly would go for the former of the two and hope it works and hope that she has enough ability to work with the people in Hong Kong who want more opportunities and more participation to be able to do that. It's not an easy calculus to make, but it's the one I think they've made.
It's going to be heightened by any sense of what happens with the trade talks and whether, if violence picks up again, if the Americans actually comment on it. How do you think that plays out?
Well, I think so far the trade talks and the developments in Hong Kong have been kept largely separate. There has not been, except the president made a couple of comments yesterday, but generally, when you talk to people in Washington who are doing trade, they're doing trade. When you talk to people in Hong Kong and talk to people in Taiwan, the general view, in Beijing, they generally
that may be how everyone wants that to play out, but if the violence escalates from here, it's going to be very difficult to keep it separate and outside.
I think that is a great dilemma. There are no easy answers here, but I do think that the best I can tell you is that the things I hear and the people who are involved in this in Beijing and in Washington have a view. Let's try to keep this separate and move ahead with the trade talks on their own terms and not have them spill over into Hong Kong or Hong Kong spill over into the trade.
Did you get any sense being there that phase one is actually going to happen? Because the rational act, the conventional wisdom is that we will get there. But even last week, we got this real sense that maybe we won't.
And this is really one of the things that has been most disturbing about this, and the on-again, off-again nature. And the things that go on in the press are said to the press in Washington and in Beijing, particularly in Washington, are things that can change the very next day. And I think it's head spinning to hear this. And I've given up trying to make predictions on the basis of what I hear in the public press, because the people who are actually directly involved in this,
right. So what are they telling you?
They're saying nothing. And I've talked to Lighthizer a lot, and he, much to his credit, in my judgment, and Liu He's as well, they are not saying nothing. The people who know are not giving out signals right and left because, A, they know that things can change, their leaders can change, and B, it's very jolting to markets. I do think what we've seen in Beijing recently on protection of intellectual property is a plus for one major reason. It's one of the things we want. But the other reason is there are a lot of Chinese who have intellectual property today, too, and they want their intellectual property protected as well. And there, I think that really is an area where there is a possible benefit for both sides, and it's something that the president has indicated he wants language on in the trade negotiations and the trade outcome.